Weaponized spiritualism is a control mechanism where somebody who is hiding behind the image of being a spiritual person flips the dichotomy that we often run into in spiritualism in certain situations in order to control you. I'm going to say that again, so listen carefully. It's where they flip the modality of the paradoxical nature of spiritualism in certain situations to control you. Let me give you a couple of examples. And they're hiding behind this image that they are a spiritual person, and so they can't do any wrong, and they're high and mighty. You know, they kind of present that persona to you. So here's two examples. You're having a bad day, or you're going through a tough time in your life, and you're dealing with lots of negative emotions, lots of triggers, and you're trying to work with that and deal with it. You're trying to be strong through those experiences. And the proper spiritual tools for doing that are going to be, number one, acceptance. So you accept that I'm feeling this way. You don't bulldoze over the emotion. You don't want to do spiritual bypassing where you resist the emotion, ignore it. You say, I'm a failure for feeling this way. You don't do those things. You accept that you're feeling this way. It's okay to have feelings. I'm a human, damn it. This is going to happen. You know, something happened. I lost my job or whatever it is. And so I feel this way. The second thing is to, okay, now that I've done that, I want to start feeling better. And then there's certain spiritual tools that you can use by taking your focus off the emotion and coaching yourself on accepting the situation and trying to see the perfection in it and accept that it's perhaps a life's lesson for you to learn that you're being brought this experience. And those are generally the kind of tools that you're going to use to deal with triggers. And, I've made videos about that before. I'll probably make more videos again too. But that's generally what you're going to get traditionally in the spiritual community about how to deal with triggers. And that's nothing new under the sun. Now, you're using those tools, and then someone who is a spiritual weaponizer, they're going to come in and they're going to try to claim that you're a failure because you feel bad and you're having a bad day and you've been like this for a month and you need to get over it, and you're not spiritual if you can't solve this problem. And maybe it's something really terrible that happened, like a loved one passed away or something like that. And you're like, dude, it's only been a month and I'm just dealing with these emotions and it's really tough and I'm doing the best I can. Okay, I know all that stuff. But the spiritual weaponizer, they're going to try to poo-poo you. They're going to try to say that you're bad and you're a failure for feeling that way, which is spiritual bypassing. Now, flip side of the coin. So again, this is someone who flips the modality depending on the situation to control you. Flip side of the coin is going to be, let's say somebody else is experiencing a tough time, they lost their job, a loved one passed away, whatever it is. They're the ones who are in that emotional situation, and you're trying to coach them, and you're giving them the proper spiritual guidance on how to deal with the emotion, accept the emotion, and try to see the perfection and acceptance of the situation, try to forgive. That doesn't mean that I like what happened. It doesn't mean I approve of what happened. You're just saying it just is, and this is a lesson that's being brought to me for a reason. And you're trying to give them this coaching. Now, the spiritual weaponizer is going to come in and flip the modality, and they're going to try to say that you're bad and you're not allowing this person to accept their feelings, and you're not allowing this person to feel what they're feeling, and you're bad. Whereas before, the spiritual weaponizer was saying that you're bad and you're not spiritual because you were the one feeling that way. You're a failure because you're feeling like that. And now this person, they're feeling like that, and you're telling them that how to get out of the trigger, because the person wants to get out of the trigger. They want to feel better, and the spiritual weaponizer is saying you're bad for doing that. Do you see the flip there? And again, spiritualism is very paradoxical, guys. That's the whole essence behind the yin and yang symbol, right? is you're always walking this fine line between consciousness and the duality of ego. But you want to be aware of ego, and you want to be clear about who you are as a person, as a human person too, and coach yourself on the intricacies of the ego and how to just always be aware of what the ego is doing. That's always been the core of spiritualism. Ego versus consciousness, the awareness, so ego, consciousness, awareness, and being aware of the ego, and then being aware that you're the awareness. And all other discussions are ancillary to that. They all kind of float around that core principle of spirituality. And it's always going to be paradoxical like that. To end suffering, you have to, it's like make peace with it, right? That's kind of the thing. You have to accept it. Even if you don't like it, you don't have to like it, whatever it is, but you just kind of back away from it, and you see things from the bigger picture of a greater awareness, okay? And also, just as an aside, this is why spiritual teachers are always telling you to meditate, 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 because that awareness can only come through consciousness. And just dealing directly in psychology, it can't really get you there. That's kind of the magic, so to speak, of consciousness. And even psychologists these days, more often than not anymore, they're going to encourage people that suffer from, say, anxiety to use mindfulness meditation as a tool, because it works. It's so effective. And there's a reason for that. And we as spiritual people, we understand why that works. It's because consciousness is not thought. It's the oomph. It's the stuff. It's the magic. It's the self. Consciousness, the soul, it's the self, and it's the thing that can't be explained. To seek ultimate reality is to follow explanations until explanations end. Right? And so you get to the end, and it's something that you can't understand with your mind. Now, what I'm talking about in this video today is the kind of thing that is like hidden behind a veneer of spiritualism. A spiritual person who claims to be spiritual, it's an identity of spiritualism, which again is thought and form and structure, which is really antithetical to the essence of spiritualism itself. Spiritualism is not a thing, and it's not nothing. So think of like a solid object versus empty space. It's neither of those. And so that's why Buddhists, they're going to tell you, don't talk about it. Now, a Hindu person is going to say, go ahead and talk about it, Hinduism, but they're going to talk about it in the way that I'm talking about it, right? Because you can't really talk about the it. Because as soon as you start talking, as soon as you say that there is an it for you to be talking about, you're already doing it wrong, technically, because it's pure essence, right? It's not yin or yang. It transcends that. It's the consciousness. And this is why spiritualism seems to be contradictory to some and paradoxical to others. It's just dichotomy, right? Now, people hide behind this veneer of spiritualism, and this is why you see a guy like J.P. Sears. If you're familiar with him, he's on YouTube, J.P. Sears. He's gotten more and more political as of late. And that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. I don't agree or disagree necessarily with anything he says. But kind of where he came from, like where he emerged, was kind of poking fun at people who hide behind this identity of spiritualism. And that's the thing. Again, that's the thing about being a spiritual person, is you have to really grasp this deeper knowing. It's not really conceptual, that it can't really be defined or explained. What is spirit? That's what's so interesting about this. But people, they fall into these belief systems of, well, if I'm holier than thou and if I'm better than somebody else, then that proves that I'm spiritual. And that's kind of where J.P. Sears came from at the beginning anyway, when he started his YouTube channel, always poking fun at, the spiritual identity out there. But this is a real thing, guys. You're going to encounter this in the general spiritual community, with people that you congregate with. You might find a group of people who are spiritual people and they get it, and then there's going to be one person in there that they're grandiose and they grandstand and they weaponize spiritualism as a means of control. And it's like, why do they do it, right? Why does the ego do that? Well, it's because ego, right? People are fighting each other for energy. And any of you who have read, say, the Celestine prophecy, you might kind of understand this, right? Where the core, the root of all ego conflict is people vying for each other's energy. So all of these ego-based, egocentric modalities where someone is trying to stay in control of you, they're pointless. They're so pointless. Like if you take a step back and look at it, it's so pointless. Like, why do you need to control other people? Okay, so here's another example of weaponized spiritualism. So there's the teaching about how all knowledge is known, and they call that the Akashic record, and knowledge comes to you when you're ready for it. And when it comes to you, you have this experience of, oh, I figured it out all on my own. And you might not have even ever saw it in a book or read it somewhere before. And say that happens to you and you feel inspired to do something creative with it, like, I don't know, write a song or write a blog or write a book or something, right? Or shoot a YouTube video or whatever. And you have this big aha moment and nobody helped you. You never really saw this information anywhere else before, possibly. Or if you did, it didn't quite make sense to you, and you write the blog post about it or whatever, write the song, and you show it to somebody in the spiritual community, and they go, oh, well, I could have told you that. And I probably did tell you that 6 months ago. You know, you're taking my idea. Right? Or they go, well, you're not special because, you know, that's just in the Akashic record and you're just taking information from the Akashic record. So you didn't figure that out on your own. You're not special, right? And so that's the one side of the coin, the one side of the paradox. Now, let's say you did see the information somewhere instead. It didn't come to you in a flash of inspiration. And you found it in a book and you go show this person the book. They flip the modality and they go, well, you know, you could have just accessed the Akashic record and figured that out on your own. You didn't need a book to do that. Pfft, you're not very spiritual. Right. See how they flip the modality there? And guys, I see this all the time. And they might even accuse you of plagiarism. You know, and it's not. You can't even copyright ideas, right? If you go to the U.S. Copyright and Patent Office, the first thing on their website, what can be copyrighted, it says you can't copyright ideas. And it's because this is the human experience. I mean, even this video, guys, where I'm talking about weaponized spiritualism, which is a form of unconscious behavior for people to control each other, it's like somebody could have already made this video, you know, and they called it something else. Or maybe somebody made a video called Weaponized Spiritualism. I don't know. I've never heard of that before. But here I am making this one. And so whatever. Ideas are universal. But again, guys, just because somebody says they're spiritual and looks spiritual and usually acts spiritual and maybe they're into spiritual things and maybe they are a spiritual person too, right? But there can be times where they hide behind that veneer of the label spiritual to try to control people. And again, it's pointless. Lots of people do it. So, you know, I just wanted to bring awareness to this today. There's going to be people, even in the spiritual community, who are going to try to stay in control of you. And it's a thing. Most people don't. Most people are good people, right? Most people are good, but it's a thing, guys. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll be back next week.